Hello and welcome to the No Balls podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McDonald, with me co-host Ben McDonald. Today is the final division of the MLB offseason recap and 2025 predictions series. Today we are finishing it off with the NLEast. I think this will be one of the better divisions in baseball this year. That's about all the comments I'm going to go before we go into the five teams, not two teams. Finn, do you have anything that you want to start with on this division before we get into the team?
Honestly, no. I think getting into it will speak to itself. And I agree with you. This is the division where I got more than two teams potentially making the postseason.
Yeah, I would agree. And by potentially, we mean guaranteed. Like, we do feel like there are two teams in some combination of a couple of teams that are guaranteed to make it in. So, Finn, you're going to go ahead and get us started off with the Philadelphia Phillies.
The Phillies payroll went up by $35 million, going from $247 to $282 million. And they only had one notable addition, with Jesus Luzardo. Main piece in that trade was Starlin Caba going back.
And it is worth mentioning they bring in Max Kepler. And they do have a couple of losses.
Yeah, they did have a couple of losses, mainly Trevor Hoffman and Estevez. Hoffman going to the Blue Jays and Estevez going to the Angels.
Yeah. Not Trevor Hoffman, Hall of Fame closer, but Jeff Hoffman, pretty good closer, is their loss.
Semi-notable addition, Jordan Romano.
An interesting swap from Hoffman to Romano. Yeah, fan.
All right, now I'm going to the depth chart. Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Alec Bob, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Max Kepler, JT Realmuto, Bryson Stott, and Brandon Marsh.
It's having Kepler in right and Castellanos at DH, correct?
It has Kepler in left, Nick Castellanos in right, and Schwarber as DH.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Immediate takeaways from this starting lineup, Finn. What do we have?
Good lineup. Nothing really here that I hate. I don't really like the defense in that outfield, though.
Yeah, I was going to say the defense is interesting, like it's always been with the Phillies these past couple of years. Also on the bench, it kind of, they've tipped their hand here. Edmundo Sosa, Johan Rojas are probably going to be two guys who platoon a good bit. I'm going to be doing a good bit of platooning, I think. Especially with like the Castellanos situation, I do see him losing a good bit of at-bats against right-handed pitching this season. And I think Kepler coming in is a big sign of how they're going to operate with this outfield going forward. Like you said, though, Finn, I do think this is a really good offense and lineup. They notably decided to move Trey Turner to the leadoff spot in favor of Schwarber not hitting solo homers the whole time. Yeah, I think that's a right pick to make, and I do like how this lineup looks. I think it'll be a really good one. What do you think, Finn?
Yeah, I would agree. On to the pitching rotation. With Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, and Jesus Luzardo. One of the better rotations in baseball right there.
What do we think, Finn? You can make an argument it's like potentially the best rotation in baseball. I don't think they really top the Dodgers, but outside of that, it's hard for me to argue that there's much better than this. Wheeler, no worse than like the third best pitcher in baseball. Sanchez, Nola, Suarez are great. Luzardo, I'm sure they'll catch some lightning in whatever bottle he has equipped for him. He was pretty good a couple years ago with Miami. He said
worst starter is Ranger Suarez, and he is a guy that a lot of teams would like to have as their two.
100%. And, using projection systems, he's one of the very top. He's a top 50 starter in like a bit of projection systems, and he's their 4th star. I think that's big. How much do you think we're going to see out of Jesus?
Honestly, I don't know. He has had some health problems. If he could stay healthy, that'll be a great acquisition.
I agree. We've talked about the trade itself with Sterling Kaba being the main piece of it, and we like Sterling Kaba, but we thought that, like, hey, if you get Jesus Luzardo, then it's just a steal of a deal, especially as they get him for 2 seasons. I think similar with the lineup, but I think more so in this pitching, if there is any cause for concern. It's like, hey, like, it's kind of old. Like, Nola's 32 and Wheeler's 35, and the other guys are 30-ish. Luzardo's other guys are, bordering on 30. We'll see. They don't also have a lot of miles in their arms either. Some of their other guys. Wheeler and Nola obviously do have some miles on their arms. But do you have anything else on the rotation, Finn, or are you ready for bullpen?
Ready for the bullpen. And I am not the biggest fan of this bullpen. They lost guys that they did not replace. Closer, Jordan Romano. Setup men, Orion Kerkering and Jose Alvarado. Middle relievers, Jose Ruiz, Tanner Banks, Joe Ross, Kyle Tyler. And their long reliever is Taijuan Walker.
Like you said, Vin, you don't like the bullpen. I don't think this bullpen is a strength. Sure, I can say that I have some hopes that Jordan Romano will bounce back and that I like Orion Kerkering. That's where like the optimism kind of runs dry. Like, it's like, can this guy be decent for us? And Alvarado as well, I should mention. Alvarado, I think, as well will be very good. Everybody else, you're just hoping you get decent production out of. Taijuan Walker, please don't be horrible. Like, please. He'll probably make spot starts. It was really weird with him last year. He was going out there every 5th day, and the team was just losing. And they didn't lose many games last year. Matt Strom's
I
on
do
the
have to
IL.
mention that they do have Matt Strahm on the IL.
Yeah, echoing each other here, Finn. Matt Strom's, I think, is a big piece for them. Sucks that he is currently out for them. I think he would make this bullpen a good bit stronger, but still would be a weaker bullpen with Matt Strom there.
Yeah, really feeling the losses of Jeff Hoffman and Carlos Estevez.
100%. And those are huge losses, I think, and we're gonna see that. I think this season a little bit. They'll probably make moves at the deadline. I would think. I don't think that they would, push in with the rest of the roster just to ignore the fact that the bullpen isn't great. It's just, they didn't want to go the opposite of bargain hunting in the free agent market for relievers. Yeah, you ready to move on to depth guys for them, Finn?
Yep.
Edward Tiat, catcher / first base prospect, really young. Last year got into A-ball as an 18-year-old. Still a lot to see out of him. Non-roster invitee Carson Taylor is also a first base catching player. Not a huge prospect, but he's a non-roster invitee. Rodolfo Castro, Christian Arroyo, and Rafael Lutiga were all non-roster invitee guys. Aaron Escobar, or it might be Arun Escobar. It's 2 O's. Yet to make any not affiliated ball, but any stateside type of debut. 20 years old now. Last season was 19 years old. It, could be in a good infield prospect. We just really don't know quite yet. Aiden Miller, their top prospect. If you go onto any Twitter platform that likes the Phillies, you will be convinced that Aiden Miller has to be the best prospect in baseball. He's a lot better than I at least thought. He can potentially stick at shortstop in the big leagues and has really plus power. I think he's good. Brian Rincon, good glove. His bat really struggled a year ago. whatever. You'll see what it is. Justin Crawford, one of their big prospects. He's a top 100 guy. Um, it's just, can he hit well enough to really capitalize on that plus speed that he has, and legit center field potential with him. Kel Stevenson's a guy on their 40-man roster. Let's see, on the pitching side of things, Micah Bell, obviously we know about Micah Bell. He's been a good prospect for them for a while. Hey, let's see. It can probably happen in the big leagues this season. I wouldn't be surprised. Seth Johnson's a guy who they got at the deadline from the Orioles last year in the Austin Hayes Anthony Dominguez trade. He's good. He's good. He's got decent stuff. He gets into the not the upper 90s, but 96 to 98. Keeps the ball on the ground. He's a good player. Griffin McGrary is there. Andrew Painter, their best prospect. Real frontline rotation type potential with Andrew Painter. He has just had a really rough go of things health wise these past couple years. And that should just about do it for them. They don't have any other guys who I really want to throw anything to. So yeah, that's the Phillies peripheral guys. Finn, do you have anything else on those guys, or just the Phillies in general before we go to the next team?
Honestly, I don't.
Okay, Finn. Do we think the Phillies got better this offseason?
I don't.
I would say no as well. For those who don't know, they were a 96 win team a year ago. They didn't have a ton to get better at. Do we think the Phillies set themselves up better for the future, Finn?
I don't.
Yeah, it's just really hard to argue that they did. Maybe you could say, hey, they got younger in the bullpen, so that can help them. But I don't know that they necessarily got this team set up better for the future either. They're kind of just an old team right now. I think that's the lazy narrative going around them that still holds some truth. Finn, what would we grade this Philadelphia Phillies offseason?
I'd go with D+.
I was thinking a C-, Finn. I think we're on the same page here. They didn't do anything super significant. I think they did the bare minimum to at least keep this team at the place of a 96 win team from a year ago. I think the roster quality is about the same. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Would have been able to give them a better grade if they would have brought back one of their bigger relievers.
Yeah. I think bringing in Luzardo and Max Kepler is kind of offset by the fact that they did lose a lot of their late innings. So, yeah, Finn, that should do it for Philadelphia. Ready to go. All right, so now we'll move forward to the Braves. This season, they saw a payroll cut of about $30 million from $238 million to $209 million. Once we look at the additions versus subtractions type of thing, it looks like this. They agreed to a 3-year deal with Jerickson Profar. They agreed to a 1-year deal with Brian De La Cruz and Connor Gillespie, which is not the one that hit a home run off the Mets in the 2016 wildcard game. A little bit of ball knowledge for y'all. They lose to free agency. AJ Minter, Charlie Morton, Gio Urshela, Whit Merrifield, Adam Duvall, Sean Brevia, Max Fried, and I guess Jesse Chavez also should be mentioned. They traded away Jorge Soler as a salary dump because the Angels are incompetent, and that pretty much sums up the Braves' offseason moves. Finn, do you have any of these that you want to specifically talk about?
Losing Max Fried really hurts.
It does, and then we'll talk about their roster and how it could be all right still. Just looking at
just that they lost him, but they didn't do anything to replace him.
Yeah, but we'll talk about the options that they're currently rolling with. All right. In their lineup currently, Jurickson Profar in left, Austin Riley at third, Matt Olson at first, Marcell Ozuna at DH, Michael Harris in center, Ozzie Albies at second, Drake Baldwin is at catcher, Orlando Arcia is at shortstop, Jared Kelnick is in right field. Obviously, if you're paying attention, Ronald Acuna is on the injured list right now, not in their lineup. Finn, how do we... Whoa, there goes the dog. What do we think about this lineup, Finn?
I really like it. Gonna look a lot better now that people are coming back from injury. Talking about you, Austin Riley.
Yeah, it should be mentioned, the Braves had a rough year last year. A lot of it was with guys being hurt, and then when guys did play, they just didn't look healthy. Ozzie Albies, I think we talked about in the top 100 video, like, he was hitting right-handed the whole time once he came back for a little bit. Things just weren't 100% right with 100% of their roster. It's starting again. Sean Murphy's hurt to start the year. Drake Baldwin, who's like a top 30-ish prospect in baseball, he's now their starting catcher probably to start the year, which I think is interesting. They lose Travis d'Arnaud too. Would have been their catcher right now, but I still think that they can make do with Drake Baldwin and Chadwick Trump as their catching depth. Chadwick Trump, Nick Allen, Brian De La Cruz, and Eli White is their current bench. Finn, do you have anything else on their lineup before we get to the rotation?
Oh, I don't.
All right. The rotation currently looks like Chris Sale, Reynaldo Lopez, Spencer Schwellenbach, Grant Holmes, Ian Anderson, and a notable mention, Spencer Strider's on the IL currently. Finn, what do we think about this Braves rotation?
The lack thereof of Spencer Strider is really showing with having to have Ian Anderson in your rotation. When it's healthy, I really don't hate it.
I agree. They're trying to recreate the Reynaldo Lopez thing with Grant Holmes transitioning a reliever back to being a starting pitcher. We'll see how it works. We talked about in the Players We Like episode. I think Spencer Schwellenbach's legit. I think he'll have a great season. Let's see it happen before I'm going to project that or count it into these projections, but I do think that Spencer Schwellenbach is legit. Finn, what do we think about this rotation? Assuming that you will get 25 starts from Spencer Strider because he is due back in early May.
I'd say it's in the top half of the league.
Yeah. I was thinking like top 10, but not top 7 type of thing.
Yeah, I'm about
Probably.
in that area, like 10 through 12.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's a bad rotation at all. We're obviously hoping that Sale stays healthy. We're hoping Reynaldo Lopez doesn't run out of gas again, like he was about to before he got hurt last year. We're hoping Schwellenbach can repeat his success. You got anything else on it before we get to the bullpen?
Nope.
And it's worth mentioning, Strider looked pretty good in spring training the other day, or I think it was today even. Looked pretty solid. Bullpen. Raisel Iglesias, currently their closer. Pierce Johnson, Aaron Bummer, Dylan Lee, Hector Neris, who's a non-roster invitee. Angel Perdomo, Dice-Bell Hernandez is their other bullpen arms, and then Angel De Los Santos is a non-roster invitee who's projected to be their long man. Finn, what do we think about this Braves bullpen?
Definition of mid.
Yeah, I would call it mid. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but I don't think it's good. It's a far cry from their bullpen a couple years ago with, you have Kenley Jansen in there and Kirby Yates and all of the guys that are currently in there right now. And then I probably missed somebody from that. Jesse Chavez, who is only good on the Braves, was also in that bullpen. It's just a little bit worse, to say the least. Two non-roster invitees currently projected to make that bullpen. I think that changes a little bit when, you could throw like Ian Anderson into the bullpen once Strider is able to return and Joe Jimenez, who is currently hurt, comes back. I think that's a little bit different, but that's not currently how it looks. Joe Jimenez had knee surgery in the offseason, so we're just going to have to see with him coming back. The Braves have had a weird history with these lower body injuries for starting pitchers, not just starting pitchers, but pitchers in general. We'll have to see. Do you want to go forward to their peripheral guys, Finn?
Yep.
Shout out Sandy Leone. Made a spring training roster for them. Probably won't make the big league roster to start the year. Garrett Cooper also made a spring training roster. Christian Caro is interesting. Infield prospect, probably won't stick at shortstop. He was a former big Guardians prospect. We'll just ultimately have to see. Jose Devers, it's not Rafael Devers, so don't get your hopes up. Just figure out some hit for power ability, and then I can get a little bit excited. He's athletic, at the very least. It's not terrible. Luke Williams on their 40-man roster. Nacho Alvarez got some big league time last season. He's 22 years old. He had a rough showing of things. He didn't really look ready. Hopefully he can turn around. He's a guy who could potentially play a little bit of shortstop. I guess we didn't mention it in the lineup. They have a horrible shortstop situation with Orlando Arcia. Horrible that he was an all-star instead of Francisco Lindor. Anyway, outside of that, Jose Perdomo, he's all the way down in rookie ball. He's not even 19 years old. He's there. Connor Capel, non-roster invitee for Atlanta, is in the outfield for them. Outside of that, not too much on the hitter side. They're just a team that you look through their top prospects and oh wait, they're all pitchers. AJ Smith-Shawver, one of their top pitching prospects. He's gotten major league time. We'll see. Hurston Waldrip, he's their a top 5 prospect for them too. We'll see. Dylan Dodd on the 40-man. Bryce Elder, Davis Daniel, these guys are on the 40-man. Just talking about so many of these pitchers. Drew Hackenberg, he looks really fun. He was a 2023 draftee who had a great 2024 season. Blake Bulkharter is a good prospect for them. Owen Murphy, who's missed a ton of time with Tommy John surgery and could have potentially been one of their top prospects. He is also a really good prospect for them who hopefully will return from injury very soon. Cam Caminetti, left-handed prep arm from 2024's class, was a first rounder. There was a chance that he could have stayed as a position player as well. He's just a great athlete who throws very hard on the mound. Left-handed starting pitcher. Finn, they have so many pitcher prospects, not many position player prospects. One of them's in the big leagues for their position player prospects. The other one has played in the big leagues. It's a weak position player farm system, but a very strong pitching farm system. That's Atlanta Braves. Finn, what do we think about this Atlanta Braves offseason? Do we think they got better? That's the first question. For those who did not see his mouth, Finn said no. I accidentally muted him. He's back now. Finn, do we think the Braves set themselves up better for the future this offseason?
I don't.
Let me say this. If the alternative was signing Max Fried to the contract that the Yankees got him, or a higher deal, yeah, they probably got better in the long run. Because I'm not sure exactly how that free contract's going to play out. Obviously, we can't play hater on things. But, hey, if you want to look at it from that lens, then potentially. But for me, too, it's probably not a absolutely yes. It's probably like a maybe yes. What would we grade this offseason for Atlanta, Finn?
I'll give C minus.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. I think it's about as good as the Phillies offseason. They added some stuff. They added Profar, which I think will be something for them. And, it can't be too bad, the stuff that they're going to roll out there with the rotation. I think they'll still be okay. Yeah, I give it a C minus as well. You got anything else on them, Finn,
Profar.
before we...
Profar. The only reason I'm not giving their off-season an F this year.
Yeah, this is a good save of an acquisition.
And on to the Mets, whose payroll went down $1 million from $317 to $316. The offseason tracker. Notable additions: Juan Soto, Clay Holmes, Frankie Montas, AJ Minter. Notable losses: Luis Severino.
Yep, it was an offseason. I'm sure we could go all on about the additions, but let's go ahead and look how it looks in the depth chart, Finn. Read it off to us.
Yeah, onto the lineup. Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, Vientos, Winker, Siri, Beatty, and Torrens. With the
And
note
for
that
the
Francisco
people,
Alvarez is currently on the IL.
along with Jeff McNeil. And for the people wondering, Brett Beatty is currently projected to play second base. Finn, how do we feel about the lineup in general now?
Really like the top six. Got a question for those bottom two. Siri is what he is. Has good center field defense. Great speed. As long as the bat isn't the worst bat in the league, we can manage it.
Yeah, it's just when you get to Beatty and currently having Torrens there, it's just a little shaky at the bottom, but hey, maybe Brett Beatty can tap into that upside. You'll just ultimately have to see. On the bench,
The bench.
Luis Angel Acuna.
Hayden Singer.
Oh,
Luis Angel Acuna. Starling Marte, who was going to split time with Jesse Winker versus lefties, and Tyrone Taylor.
yep, 100%. Hopefully some contributors there. Overall, Finn, where do we feel? How do we assess this lineup compared to the rest of the league?
I'd say it's top three.
I was gonna go like it's for sure a top 10 lineup and like maybe closer to 5. I
That's fair.
think there's a good argument for like the Dodgers, Phillies, Diamondbacks, Braves. I think all over them. I think outside of that, you kind of have to grasp at straws to put other names above. So it could be top 5. I would say it's easily a top 10 lineup. Ultimately, we'll see once it comes regular season time with who's healthy and who's not. Because unfortunately, that thing is starting right now for the Mets, the Braves as well. I think you had told me something before that I'm sure you'll get to when we predict our division winner for this division. You ready to move to rotation, Finn?
Yeah. The rotation is Clay Holmes, Kodai Senga, David Peterson, Tyler McGill, and Griffin Canning. Note, San Manaea is on the IL.
And Frankie Montas as well. So, two guys who are going to play into this rotation are currently hurt. As it stands currently, it's not a great rotation. When you have Montas and Manaea in there, I think it's an average rotation. I think as it currently stands, it's probably not great. Senga's had his injury issues. Currently not throwing splitters as it stands right now. We'll see how that ultimately shapes up come regular season time. How do we feel about Clay Holmes in the rotation, Finn?
I think it's going to pan out. He's had a great spring.
I agree.
And I like his pitch mix.
Right, it worked last year with Reynaldo Lopez, so why are we going to have more concerns about Clay Holmes, who was a better reliever and has, better indications of potentially transitioning into a rotation role? It just doesn't make any sense. I think Clay Holmes will be fine. I think he'll be good this season. You got anything else on the rotation, Finn?
Nope. On to the bullpen. Closer, Edwin Diaz. Setup batter, AJ Minter and Jose Butto. Middle relievers are Reed Garrett, Ryan Stanek, Danny Young, and Max Kranick, with the long reliever being Paul Blackburn.
And how do we feel about this bullpen, Finn?
Ouch, Fangraphs. I would definitely take Blackburn over Griffin Canning.
I think I would as well. I think they'll both kind of like shift between the rotation, the 5 spot, and this long man role at the start of the year. But just assuming it's one or the other, how do we feel about the bullpen otherwise, Finn?
I feel like this bullpen is really the definition of mid.
Yeah. Compared to the Braves bullpen,
I'd have it right in that middle 20.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit better than the Braves one. I just don't think it's that much better. I feel like there's a little bit more depth. Like I think the Mets go all the way to Danny Young deep. Like I think Danny Young's like gonna still be pretty good. I don't think the Braves have that many guys that you can say go that well, but yeah, I still think it's an okay bullpen. With some upside being said. I think if you get 22 Diaz, then that's probably a good bullpen. But I don't necessarily think that's what's gonna happen. You ready to move on to the other guys, Finn?
Yep.
Should mention Christian Scott currently getting Tommy John surgery. He'll miss the whole season. Drew Smith will be rehabbing this season from Tommy John surgery that he got. He might return this season, might not. Jared Young on the 40-man roster. Corner infielder was in the KBO. Randomly started hitting the ball super hard in the KBO. He ends up getting a 40-man spot for the Mets. Ryan Clifford, Joey Meneses, Luke Ritter are non-roster invitees. Notable one there is Ryan Clifford, who is a really good prospect for them. Hits the ball extremely hard. Plays first base. He's kind of stuck there. We'll see. He might be the Pete Alonso replacement long term. We'll just have to give it some time to figure it out. Donovan Moulton was a non-roster invitee, not a super interesting prospect. Luis De Los Santos and Jeffrey De Los Santos were non-roster invitees for them. Boston Barrow was a really good story of the 23 draft for the Mets. He was 20 years old last season, got all the way up to high A, and had some decent results. I think he'll be at some point a major leaguer. He hits the ball really well. Jet Williams, Mets, big prospect on the hitting side of things. Really good approach at the plate. Has plenty athleticism to stick up the middle of the field, either at short, second, or center. It's just the power is questionable. He spent a lot of last season hurt with wrist injuries that kind of zapped his power. We'll just have to wait and see what the power looks like this next season. Jeremy Rodriguez, super young guy, should hopefully make his stateside debut this season. It could be like a really crazy prospect in the coming years. Marcus Vargas is a similar player, just slightly worse than Jeremy Rodriguez. Colin Houck was a former first rounder, kind of had some regression as a player a little bit. Ultimately have to see on that one. Drew Gilbert, He's had some prospect fatigue. It was hurt a lot last season. It affected him defensively. Might not be a legit center fielder anymore. We'll have to see. Jose Azocar, Alexander Canario, who they got from Chicago, are 40-man outfielders for the Mets. Alex Ramirez, a non-roster invitee, bust of a prospect. And Carson Benj, I think, is their number one prospect, or not their number one, but their number 3 prospect. Legit outfielder, could potentially really stick in center field, and he's developed some power over his last college season. On the pitching side of things, their top prospect is Brandon Sprout. Throws almost a Paul Skeens-esque type of pitch mix, really hard fastball, and a pitch similar to the Paul Skeens blinker with Brandon Sprout's changeup. He's majorly ready right now. They're going to give him time in AAA at the start of the year. I think it's very possible that he's up really quick. Dom Hamill, he had a rough year last year. It's whatever, honestly. He's a strike thrower. Blade Tidwell has electric stuff. It's just, will he strike it enough, and will he avoid hard contact? We'll ultimately see. Jonah Tong and Nolan McLean are really good prospects. Tong is a big fastball guy. Really great shape at like the mid-90s, and then Nolan McLean, he'll throw 60% sliders if he makes a big league bullpen appearance. And that basically does it for the Mets' peripheral players and prospects. Finn, do you have anything else before we get to grading this offseason?
I don't.
All right, Finn, do you think the Mets got better this offseason?
Yes.
I agree, 100% yes. Do we think they set themselves up better for the future this offseason, Finn?
Yes.
I agree, 100% yes. They did a lot to add to this team. The Juan Soto deal isn't that much of an overpay, despite what people like to tell you. He's only getting $50 million annually. Okay. And then what would we grade this offseason letter-wise, Finn?
A.
I think A as well. It doesn't get to that A+ territory for me. I think the fact that they re-sign a lot of their guys from last year, I think helps, but I think they could have done a little bit more. Montas is good, and I don't think he's going to be a bad player like people say 5 ERA Montas. But I think they could have done a little bit better than like just adding Frankie Montas and Clay Holmes to the rotation. They could have gone a little bit higher on the rotation market and gotten some pretty, like, a good bit better results. So Finn, do you have anything else on the Mets?
Honestly, I agree with what you're saying. And I try to only give out an A+ once.
I agree.
I gave
I
mine
don't
to the
think.
Dodgers because their offseason was insane.
Yeah, I think, did I give the Dodgers an A+ too? I might have been a little. No, I should have been A+ if I didn't say A+. Because they even extended all of their guys. The Dodgers had a great offseason. I think the Mets had a really good. And we now transition to the Nationals. They have recently been dubbed one of the most fun and exciting upcoming teams. Last season, they had a payroll of $106 million. Now in 2025, they run a payroll of almost $110 million. In the transactions side of things, it looked like this. 1-year deal to Kyle Finnegan to avoid arbitration. Lucas Sims signed on a free agent deal, and Paul DeJong on a free agent deal. Jorge Lopez, Ahmed Rosario get big league contracts. Trevor Williams, they signed to a 2-year deal. Josh Bell, they signed to a 1-year deal. Michael Soroka, they signed to a 1-year deal, looking to move him back to the rotation. And that pretty much does it for their free agent acquisitions. They removed Joey Gallo from the equation, who has since decided, if you can't beat the pitchers, join the pitchers. Nathaniel Lowe they get from the Rangers, with the main piece in that deal being Robert Garcia. There we go. And that does it for the moves that the Nationals did this offseason. Finn, do you have anything to comment on these moves?
I don't.
All right, so we'll get forward to what it looks like on the depth chart side of things. At shortstop, C.J. Abrams. Right field, Dylan Cruz. Left field, James Wood. DH, Josh Bell. First base, Nathaniel Lowe. Second base, Luis Garcia Jr. Third base, Paul DeJong. Catcher, Kyber Ruiz. And center field, Jacob Young. With a bench of Riley Adams, Nasim Nunez, Ahmed Rosario, and Alex Call. Finn, what do we think about this Nationals lineup?
Honestly, not the biggest fan of it.
I do too, Finn. Very similar because I understand the excitement for this team because it's so young and there is a good bit of upside with a lot of these names, and then there's familiar guys like Nate Lowe and Josh Bell, but like it's still not great right away. I think there is the potential for it to be really good in the future. But as it currently stands, this is not a great lineup. Luis Garcia Jr. had a great year last year. You know, I'm concerned about a guy who chases as much as he does to continue to have success. I really liked Luis Garcia too as a prospect. I think that should be mentioned. I really liked him as a prospect. It's just his big league profile hasn't necessarily looked perfect. I do want to see him succeed though because he's really fun to watch and he just goes out there and slugs, and it's ridiculous. Anyway, Finn, you had any other comments on this lineup?
No.
I'll say this. It'll be really fun watching their outfield. With James Wood, Dylan Cruz, and Jacob Young out there. Hopefully this is one of the better defensive outfields, and we'll see what those two, big prospects with Cruz and Wood gives you with the bat. I think Dylan Cruz is going to be awesome, by the way. I think there's a little more risk with James Wood, but Dylan Cruz is going to be like, he's going to be right-handed Kyle Tucker. I'm pretty sure of it. Probably with a little less power, but more field to hit. He's going to be right-handed Kyle Tucker, I think. If he ultimately taps into that, yeah, they got a great one. Rotation. Mackenzie Gore, Trevor Williams, Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker, and Michael Soroka. Finn, what do we think?
Alex. Not a big fan of that at all.
Yeah. Mitchell Parker, Jake Irvin had decent results. I think Trevor Williams as well here can go in this conversation. They had decent results a year ago. It's just, are these guys even going to strike out like 7 batters per 9 innings? Like, are they going to do that? They throw a ton of strikes, and we have to give them the credit for that. It's just I'm not sure the upside with these guys. I do think Matt Gore is going to have a good year. But I don't necessarily know if I'm really excited to pencil him in as my ace for this upcoming year. And Michael Soroka, yeah, let's see it. Let's see it, bud. I hope he does because I really liked him as a prospect and thought he was going to be a great pitcher, and then he tore his Achilles twice. He had decent success as a reliever last year for the White Sox. He sucked in the rotation. Let's just ultimately see it, be good for Michael Soroka. It's worth saying, Finn, do you know what number they gave Mike Soroka?
It's so their ace is a 3.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, do you know what number they gave Michael Soroka, like his jersey number?
I don't.
They gave him 34. You understand what's wrong with that one?
Yeah, a certain Bryce Harper.
So when they play the Phillies and Michael Soroka is starting, expect Bryce Harper to go 3 for 4 with 3 home runs. Just expect it, all right? Anyway, keep going what you were saying with their rotation, Ben. Go ahead.
Their ace is a 3. Their 5 starter, I'm not even sure should be in a major league rotation. And I don't mind the other guys being where they are, but they're all bottom half rotation guys.
Yeah, you don't mind them being there. It's just I'm not excited about Mitchell Parker, Jake Irvin, and Trevor Williams being in my rotation. I'm just fine with them filling out a rotation. So I still expect them to have some success. It's just I think their success could be pretty limited. So we'll ultimately see. Ready for the bullpen?
Yeah, and well, I'm not necessarily excited. I'm also not ready to go after the owner with a pitchfork.
Yeah. I don't think it's like horrible. It's just like they're a big move in this rotation away from me like actually liking it. And it's possible that the big move for in the rotation for them just wasn't there. Uh, it's worth saying Josiah Gray is also on the IL, recovering from Tommy John surgery. He'll be back in the middle of the year. Bullpen. Kyle Finnegan, their closer. Really, it's not too bad. Jorge Lopez, Derek Law, Jose A. Ferrer, Lucas Sims, Eduardo Salazar, and Colin Poche are in the bullpen, along with Shinozuke Okazara. I almost nailed that. Anyway, Finn, what do we think about the bullpen?
I don't hate it. It really needs a true closer.
Yeah, I think there's some upside with guys like Ferrer and Salazar, but I don't think it's necessarily good. I think I feel really the same about how I feel about the lineup. Like it's not necessarily good yet, but you could do a lot worse than what the Nationals are currently doing on the bullpen side of things. I think there's decent depth. I think nobody is disrespectfully bad in this bullpen. And yeah, if there's a big, ace reliever in this calculus here, then I really like it. It's just they're currently absent of that. I think if they have that in there, like we're talking about this to be a really good bullpen. So yeah, you got anything else on that?
Nope.
All right.
They'll
Should run the
probably be
sweep.
a Ryan Helsley shooter if they somehow find themselves in contention.
100%. I think every team should be a Ryan Helsley suitor.
Except the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, obviously, but like if they're in contention, every team should be a Ryan Helsley suitor. Um, peripheral guys: Andrew Keisner, former Cardinal guy, non-roster invitee. Drew Milas is on their 40-man roster as a catcher. He's there. Juan Yepes on the 40-man roster. Yeah. Darren Baker on the 40-man roster plays middle infield and outfield. Is there, not a big prospect. Trey Lipscomb could be a utility guy on their 40-man roster. He's only 25 years old. Brady House, House is a good name. He's built like one. He's only 22 years old. He got up to AAA last year, struggled a little bit. We'll ultimately see what it looks like. He was really young last year as a 21-year-old in AAA. I'm not going to give up on that just yet. Caden Wallace and Yohandy Morales are guys who are prospects for the Nationals. Ultimately, we'll see if they play into any role for them, but they could be good. 23 years old for each of them. Both have played in at least AA baseball. Jose Tena was acquired in the Lane Thomas deal last year. On the 40-man roster, will play all three infield positions. That aren't first base. He could also probably play some first base as well. But yeah, he's there. Kevin Made, like kind of a failed prospect for the Cubs, ended up getting sent here in the Jeimer Candelario deal. Has a legit glove. Seaver King, first round pick for them in 2024. Legit prep shortstop. We'll see what it is. He's projected to play in the upper minors this season as a 22-year-old. He was not a prep shortstop. I don't know why I said that. Armando Cruz at one point was a really fun glove. The bat doesn't look like it'll get him to the big leagues just yet. A couple more guys. Robert Hassel III it's just kind of stalled out since the deal where he was sent here as one of the main pieces in the Soto deal. Um, yeah, it just hasn't quite happened yet. Stone Garrett and Andrew Pickney are non-roster invitees. Dalen Lyle, he's fun. He's a former second rounder, non-roster invitee this past season. He was 21 years old a season ago and made it up to Double A. Had decent results there. Christian Vaquero, toolsy outfielder. Uh, Elijah Green was a former top 5 pick in the draft. He strikes out like 35% of the time in the low minors. It's just been rough so far. Still, all the tools are there. It's just the field of hit doesn't look to be there. On the pitching side of things, Cole Henry, Cade Cavalli, they do not like to stay healthy. Hopefully, they do stay healthy. Hopefully, it's in more of a bullpen role for them this upcoming season rather than rotation arms. Hopefully, we can keep those young and exciting arms healthy. DJ Hurst, Jackson Rutledge, and Andy Lara are also guys on the 40-man roster for them. Yohan Adon, Connor Pinkington, and Tyler Stewart and Brad Lord are non-roster invitees as pitchers. And then the really fun one as a non-roster invitee is Yarlene Susana, who was a throw-in in the Soto deal. Made it up to high A last season. Command is overall not good, but there's flashes of his command being good enough. And yeah, he throws in the triple digits as a starting pitcher. So yeah, his stuff's electric. I'm sure if they wanted to reduce his role to be just a reliever, he could be in the big leagues right now. It's just they haven't decided to do that, which makes sense because he could be a starting pitcher. Alex Clemmy, funky lefty. We'll see if they end up tapping into anything of them. They kind of like his pitcher prototype a good bit. And Orlando Ribalta and Evan Reifert, who was a Rule 5 pick from Tampa Bay this past season. There was a great slider. Those guys are on the 40-man roster. Finn, any other notes that you have on the Nationals before we grade their offseason?
No.
All right. So, Finn, do we think the Nationals got better this offseason?
I do.
I think so too, marginally. They can fill in the gaps a little bit better than they could last year. I think the holes on their roster aren't as apparent. I don't think they got crazy better, but I think they got better. Do we think, yeah, that much? Do we think they set themselves up better for the future, Finn?
Yes.
Marginally as well. Like, they added pieces that they otherwise wouldn't have had. Kept Trevor Williams long term. Yeah. They got better for the future. I would agree, Finn. And then, what would we grade this Nationals offseason, Finn?
I'll go with C plus.
I was thinking a B minus. Finn, we're on the same page here. They didn't do anything like ambitious. I don't think it was that they weren't trying to do anything ambitious. I think it's just the right move never fell into place for them. I think they were a suitor for Bregman. It just didn't ultimately make a ton of sense for them. I think there will be moves on the horizon for Washington, especially as the Strasburg and Corbin deals start to clear off the books a little bit, because those deals are terrible and they were fully guaranteed.
Yeah, they get an F for not getting disability insurance on that contract.
Yeah, if those things weren't there right now, I think we'd be having a different story about Washington with what they did this offseason.
On to the Miami Marlins, who went down $34 million from 96 to 62.
Big drop off. How did it look on the transactions side of things, Finn?
They traded for Matt Mervis, giving up Vidal Brujan. They traded Jesus Luzardo, getting Starlin Caba. And they signed Eric Lagerman.
So, traditional standpoint, did nothing but subtract from the roster. Do you have any of those moves that you want to talk about in bulk before we go to their depth chart?
Nope, I'm going to the depth chart.
Really quick with it. You're ready. All right.
Xavier Edwards, Connor Norby, Griffin Conine, Jonah Bride, Matt Mervis, Otto Lopez, Kyle Stowers, Nick Fortes, Derek Hill.
What do we think,
I
Finn?
hate it. Except for Xavier Edwards and Connor Norby.
Those guys had really good years last year. And I think something that you'll see with these really bad teams is you'll see guys who, just because somebody has to play a ton, there are going to be guys who, find their way into good seasons because they're going to just be guaranteed to get a certain amount of playing time. I think they could have a couple guys like that. Otto Lopez is great defensively. We'll see what the bat ends up holding up, but he was great defensively a year ago. Matt Mervis, hey, he's never got a chance to hit anywhere. Let's see if he gets a chance to hit here in Miami. They'll have some guys on the way coming up, but yeah, they'll have a chance to hit. Liam Hicks on their bench, Rule 5 pick. Eric Wagerman, who you mentioned them signing, he's there. Dane Myers, Javier Sonoya, those guys are on their bench. It's not a ton of great names, but hey, something is going to click here. I think Connor Norby's going to be great, by the way. And then, if a couple guys click, then you've got a couple pieces. And I think that's what they're really banking on is something will click and we'll have something. And then when it's time to spend money, they'll spend money. Jesus Sanchez on the IL, was supposed to be one of their top mashers. Victor Mesa Jr., also on the IL, could have potentially debuted in the majors this year as a legit center field player. What do we think? Bottom 5 lineup for sure, Finn?
Agreed.
Yeah. If you don't have anything else, we can go to rotation.
On to the rotation with Sandy Alcantara, Ryan Weathers, Edward Cabrera, Max Meyer, and Cal Quantrill.
What do we have to say overall, Finn?
I like that rotation. Like the pickup of Cal Quantrill, who had a not bad ERA in Coors Field. Or for Coors Field, I should say.
Yes. For Coors Field, it was not that bad. And he's a guy who throws a ton of splitters, so obviously he was going to have struggles with altitude. Anyway, Ryan Weathers, hey, he's shown some good stuff this past couple years. Miami's done a good job of developing pitching, Finn. I think it's overstated how bad their lineup was when they were somewhat competitive, even though people knew their team wasn't really that good. They've been pretty good at developing pitching. I think we will see them continue to develop pitching well. I still think it's a bottom 10 rotation. I think Edward Cabrera's got to be like a 5 and dive type of guy. Max Meyer, he's got to develop some tertiary pitches before I can really say he'll have success in the long term. But hey, let's see it. And then Cal Quantrill just hasn't had a ton of big league success. So
I'm with you there.
let's see it. Sandy as well, coming off of not pitching for a full season. Let's see some success first with this Marlins rotation before I think it's good. But I think there's definitely 6 or 7 at least worst rotations in baseball.
Dang. Basically got all that bullpen off of waivers.
Yeah. For those who don't see it, I think it has 8 guys, and I think 6 of the 8 guys were claimed off of waivers. Anyway, Finn, read off that bullpen for us.
Closer, Gavin Fotcher. Setup man, Jesus Tinko. Setup man.
It's Calvin Fauché. That's a tough one, so I'll go in. Calvin Fauché is their closer.
Setup man, Anthony Bender. Middle relievers, Declan Cronin, Anthony Vincicano. Blake Badger, Roddy Henriquez, and Connor Gillespie. Gillespie is their long reliever.
I think very similar about the rotation, or about the lineup, as I do with this bullpen. Somebody's going to catch on and become a legit reliever for Miami. I think Declan Cronin's actually great. Nobody can hit the ball in the air off of him, so I think he's going to be great. I don't know how high the ceiling is, but yeah, Declan Cronin I think is legit. Let's see who fills in with this rotation. With this bullpen. It's definitely a bottom 10 bullpen in baseball. Probably lower than that. It's not good. Do you have anything else on that?
Bottom 5 bullpen, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's probably a bottom 5, and it could be worse in baseball. Do you have anything else to add to that, Finn?
Nope. Let's go on to the depth guys.
Yep. Here's where I talk to you about pitchers or about players that you do not know. Let's mention Yuri Perez, Braxton Garrett, and Andrew Nardi are currently hurt. I think Perez will pitch this season. Braxton Garrett will not pitch this season. Andrew Nardi should be back at some point early in the year. Augustin Ramirez was the big piece in the Jazz Chisholm Jr. trade. That's his name. He's a catcher, first base guy. I think he should be able to play catcher. He hasn't played a ton of catcher in professional baseball. I think he'll get better with time back there. I think he's good. He can really hit. I know that for sure. Joe Mack, former first rounder, was a non-roster invitee this season to spring training. I think Joe Mack and Augustin Ramirez can make a really fun catching platoon because Mack last season, stumbled upon some power. He's already a great defensive guy, former first-round pick. I think him and Augustin Ramirez will be a great catching duo in a year or two. Outside of those two guys, Davison De Los Santos, big piece in the AJ Puck deal a year ago. He hit a ton of home runs last season in the minor leagues as a 21-year-old. He had some trouble with chase and swing and miss, but I do think Davison De Los Santos, with time, will become a legit major league first baseman. I believe in it. The power is there. Nathan Morella was acquired in the Luis Arias deal. He was not necessarily the main piece, but he is good. They did a good job in those deals. We talked about it on a previous episode. Graham Pauley on their 40-man roster was an open day starter for San Diego a year ago. He is a good player. I think he'll fill in somewhere. It might not be in a starting role, but he'll fill in somewhere. Max Acosta was a part of the Jake Berger deal. Made some swing adjustments in the later part of the season and started to hit for a ton of power, and he also just stopped chasing a ton too. So yeah, let's see what that looks like. And then Jared Serna was also part of the Jazz Chisholm Jr. trade. And I think he can be a legit, up the middle type of guy for Miami this coming season. Not this coming season, but in the foreseeable future. Sterling Caba. We've talked about Sterling Caba, one of the best gloves in the minor leagues. Can legit stay at shortstop. I think he can play a big league shortstop right now. He is a hit-driven approach, mainly on discipline. We'll see if the bat's good enough. I don't know if he might have a 30 grade power at best. We'll see. Carter Johnson, second rounder from this past season. He's only 19 years old. I think he could potentially stick up the middle. It might just be a third base or second base type of situation, but he should be able to hit well enough to be ample value at those spots if he continues to develop. I think Carter Johnson could be a great player. Albert Almora Jr. is a non-roster invitee. Shout out to him. Jacob Marcy, non-roster invitee, was also a part of that Luis Arias deal. I think he will be a good fourth outfielder in the big leagues. Jacob Berry, former first-round pick. He swings and misses too much. And doesn't hit the ball extremely hard for a corner infielder / experiment, fuck around and throw him in left field type of situation. Switch hits though. He's there. A Marion Ward, they got in the Luzardo deal from Philly. He's never hit in the minor leagues. He's a great athlete, but he's just never hit. PJ Rolando, first rounder from a year ago. It looks like they're going to try him in the outfield. Didn't play professional ball for Miami last year. He was hurt. We'll see. Crazy great power, crazy great speed. Great athlete. Not crazy great, but he has plus speed as well. Dylan Head was a part of the Luis Arias deal as well. Really toolsy outfielder. Was our first round pick by San Diego in 2023. Had a lot of injuries last year. So let's see a healthy season from Dylan Head, because I think he can be really good. Potentially one of their top prospects. Adam Mazur was in the, let's see, what AJ Preller deal did they swing with them? The Tanner Scott deal. There we go. He was good. He made a couple starts for San Diego last year. He struggled a little bit once he came over to Miami. I think Mazur can fill into a rotation. I don't know if he will necessarily stick in one. Robbie Snelling, velo's up. He's 21 years old. He's almost major league ready. I think he's a steal to have gotten in the Tanner Scott deal. I think Robbie Snelling can be like a middle rotation arm for sure. I think he's gonna be awesome. Dax Fulton, it's probably as a left-handed reliever once he gets to the big leagues, but he's good. Thomas Whitefin, he's never going to be the top prospect in baseball because he's going to make his major league debut before that. Like, he's legit. He's really legit. He throws in the mid to upper 90s from the left side, and it just has a great propensity to spin the baseball. Carson Milbrandt is a starter for them. Jacob Miller is also a fun starter from the 22 draft. Both guys could eventually be major league pitchers, and I wouldn't be surprised with it. Noble Meyer had a weird season last year, was a first rounder in 2023, was one of the most surefire good prep arms in recent memory, and I think he will be a great pitcher at some point when given the time to develop. Finn, that pretty much does it for this Miami Marlins team. Do you have anything else on any of their players?
Don't.
All right, Finn. Miami, do you think they got better this offseason?
No.
No, I can't argue that either. They didn't really get any good. Do we think they set themselves up better for the future, Finn?
Yes.
I think absolutely yes, just like the other answer was absolutely no. Finn, what would we grade this very weird Miami Marlins offseason?
I'm going to go a D.
A D. Wow. Because I was thinking on the other end, I was thinking like a B. What's the D argument?
They didn't get better. I like the trades. It's the only reason I didn't give them an F.
Fair enough. Yeah. I'm gonna bump it down to a B minus.
I can go up to a C minus.
Okay, I guess.
Because C
if they would
is
have
they
spent
at
a little
least stay
more
the
on the
same,
lineup.
and any above that, it's they got better, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, I was more so saying that the grade takes into effect both getting better and setting themselves up better. Yeah, I think they had a decent offseason. I don't think they did anything crippling. I think they actually set themselves up pretty good for, I don't know, 2029, probably, right? Set a good timeline for Miami. You know, Sterling Cava is 23 at that point. Yeah, I think they'll be fine by then. And yeah, let's continue to see good drafts from them, because that 23 draft's looking really good with Thomas White and Noble Meyer both being selected in the first 35 picks. Because there's a good chance in 2029 that those two guys both make All-Star teams, and one of them is winning the Cy Young. So, do you have anything else on Miami, Finn, before we predict a division winner?
Nope.
All right, Finn. On the count of three, this is how we're gonna do it. All right, we're gonna both just say who we think is winning the division. Are you ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Phillies.
Wow. I was expecting a different answer from you, Finn. Phillies. We both agree. Is it because they're the team of the three teams that is healthy right now?
Yes, that does factor. It's also that with the Phillies, there is nothing that I hate. With the Mets, I am not the biggest fan of their pitching rotation. With the Braves, I am not the biggest fan of their bullpen.
Yeah. And the Braves, like we just saw it a year ago, like it's they have guys who have just picked up random injuries. I hate saying injury prone because it implies that they're going to get hurt again. But it just happened a year ago, so it's hard to shake it right now in my head. So I lean with Phillies. I still think Wheeler and Nola have another year. If Nola was like horrible last year and we were begging on like a huge bounce back from Nola, then I would say I wouldn't probably be picking the Phillies, but Zach Wheeler was just third in Cy Young voting last year. So, was he even third? Yeah, he was third, right? Or he was second? I don't know, Finn. Sale won it. Skeens and Wheeler were in there. I don't know. Um, yeah, I think I still land with Philly, and like you said early in the episode, I think two of the teams are guaranteed to make the playoffs, and I think all three will. Unless something goes wrong for one of the three teams. So, Finn, I guess do you have anything else on this division?
Honestly, I don't. Other than it's going to be really interesting to see, and I can't wait to watch it.
I can't either, Finn. Um, do we think this is the year the Nationals take that next step forward?
Yeah, I do.
What does that next step look like to you?
That next step looks like going neck and neck with the Dodgers in the playoffs.
Wait, who are we talking? Are we talking about the Nationals?
No, for the Nationals, it's be respectable, go 500 or a few games below.
Yeah, that's what I think the next step implies for the Nationals. I really don't know if it's there quite yet. We'll see. I think they're getting a lot of hype to do that. I don't necessarily see it there on the roster. I guess I'm just being a pessimist at the hour and 20-minute mark of us recording. I'm sure it'll be shorter once we edit out some pauses. Anyway, do you have anything else before we wrap this one up, Finn?
No, I don't.
Okay, next week's episode, it will be a what do we call them, Finn? Ultimate bold predictions episode where we're gonna throw out some bold predictions and just be wrong because yeah, that's the nature of bold predictions. At the end of the year, we will grade our bold predictions and face face the jury for our crimes of horrible predictions. So yeah. Hopefully we do better than 35 home run Nolan Gorman season like I did a year ago. By the way, I still did very good this past season. It's just I will always poke fun at myself for the Nolan Gorman prediction. Anyway, Finn, that'll wrap it up for this one. We will see you guys next week.